Okay, back with you a bit later, approaching the Sally Elbow. So instead of taking the right and then going down the Sally Elbow and then taking the left, I just want to go straight on in. I've got a landmark down here. This little dry lake is something I can use to set myself up for the approach on. I've got an apex right here, so I'm just going to fly to the dry lake and then turn to apex, and that'll set me up for a straight in to Nellis. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and call into Nellis. Let's go 125 on VHF AM. So let's go for A-10C Nellis inbound. I've just been cleaning up aircraft systems. Of course, I went Master Arms safe. And let me turn the volume back up on VHF. Yeah, when Master Arms safe, I'm going to turn my targeting pod off. I'm going to turn my countermeasure system off. I should have got that, in fact, a little bit earlier. And yeah, everything else I'll just sort of leave as is. I'll re-enable my lights. That's another thing I should have got a little bit earlier, I guess. No big deal. So we have the tower frequency dialed in. I'm going to go ahead and come on down just like this. So I'm going to continue on, start into the descent, then turn right over the dry lake to apex. I'll call up the apex steer point. In fact, right there is steer point 15, and then just take it straight on in. So I'll be back in a bit. Okay, so coming over apex, let me turn back a little bit to the right to maintain alignment here. And I'll go speed brakes out. Made that with about 1,500 pounds of fuel. So yes, still nearly no sweat on fuel state at all. Okay, speed brakes out. And I'm going to go, okay, clear visual contact tower. Go for request landing. And let's go gear down. And flaps down. Okay, and I'll trim it out. This will be a lot slower on the approach than the last time. This may even be the lightest A-10 I've ever landed with no weapons remaining. I fired the gun, and yeah, really just the ECM pod, some AIM-9s, and a targeting pod, lightning pod out there on the wing. Yeah, I'm already down through 125, and I'm needing to pull the throttle in some more. So even on the approach, I'm down to like 115. Wow. And big crosswind coming in from our right, so I'm just sort of crabbing into it as we go. And if I wanted to, I could, blend in the rudder just like that to get the velocity vector back into the HUD, but yeah, I'm not going to worry about that until later. And just confirm, okay, 3 green, flaps are down full. Just going to continue to hold the nose off to the right as I get on the approach here. I can see a whole lot of the other aircraft have landed. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so the entire strike package basically landed and then came back to these. One on the DOE ramp, one on the hot cargo pad, it looks like. One just filled up the arm-to-arm areas down here on this side of the airfield.
Altitude.
Okay, I've got to pull the throttle way back in. Sort of lost concentration there. Which is easy to do after, 2 hours of flight. Okay, so throttle back up just to get it back onto the desired glide slope. And as I approach the runway and I start to flare, I'm just going to blend in some rudder to straighten myself back out. I'll pull the throttle on in as well. And just set her down right about there. That's fine. Okay, let's go speed brakes full out. I'll re-engage the nose wheel steering as I come down. Right now I still have enough airflow to control it with rudder, and that's just fine. And let's go ahead and exit that comms menu. I'll just roll it out. I'm curious. I should have done like a max braking landing and just see how short I could make a landing. This would definitely be the configuration to top of like a personal best if I were trying to do that. Okay, so now I need to enable nose wheel steering. I have a whole lot of left rudder plugged in right now. I'm going to center the rudder and then engage nose wheel steering. So now I'll be able to control the aircraft. And I'm just going to take it again out here to the left, and I'll be back once I'm set up. I'm definitely going to blow off the D-arm and just go straight back into chocks and shut her down this time. Okay, there we go. And as I was coming off the runway, that little blip on the master caution, it was the DTC download. So all the data from the mission, all the mark points, all the navigation info, what I released, where I released it, just all the information is downloaded into the cartridge. I used to think that you had to manually command the download. I knew there was something that you would need to do, but yeah, it does it automatically right there. I just happened to be looking down one day when that happened and noticed it a couple of days ago. And coming up on the right-hand turn, approaching the Lola, I've just been slowly starting to power down systems that aren't essential and that I need to power down anyway as I'm on the taxi here into the parking location. So I've turned a whole lot of the other things off. I'm just going to actually kill my taxi lag right now since I'm approaching the parking area and a whole bunch of people that wouldn't appreciate being blinded by lights unnecessarily. And yeah, from there it'll just be the standard shutdown. So I'm just going to take it up here and turn just to the left. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Instead of trying to make that big right-hand turn, I'm just going to sort of break it up into just a series of shorter turns since I have space to spare up here. So right here, instead of that big 140-degree turn, I'm just going to make two 90s and then take it into the spot. That is, in a lot of cases, what, just based on what I've seen at least, what happened in cases like this. So yeah, instead of that big turn, like trying to make this, yeah, just break it up into 2 or 3 smaller turns. Okay, so I'm picking up the marshaller at this point. Just going to take it forward. Come in here and hold the brakes while the crew chief does this thing. I'll probably do a rollover check right here, but I'm going to definitely blow that off and just go straight into all the shutdown stuff. So extremely out of order, but I'm just going to go in and start hitting switches at this point. So I've got all these systems off. I've got my comms already turned off. I can acknowledge that master caution, and I'm going to go assume that I've been at idle long enough. I'm just going to kill both the engines, kill the inverter, kill the battery, and I'm done. And yeah, I'll take a little bit of time just to clean other stuff up, but okay, that was one heck of a long mission. It's going to be a long debrief, probably. Well, I don't know. I covered a lot of stuff in real time, but I'll be back with a good debrief for you, so see you in a second. And now we'll pick the debrief up, approaching the Marshall location, looking to the west, out in the direction of the target. Our target is actually going to be right here by the JTAC, flanked by these 2 SA-19 sites. Yeah, the target isn't actually visible yet. Those are going to pop up a little bit later. And as we marshaled, I was able to pick up on this B-52 launching Calcums into the area, so I hope you enjoyed the external views on that, and that's why I always go back and look at the TACVIEW replay in detail after the fact. Of course, I can't see any of this stuff happening in real time. That I still, for some reason, worry about people just not picking up on that when they watch these and thinking, my goodness, this guy is terrible. How does he not see all this stuff that's going on and react to it? But yeah, all this stuff is after the fact, and all I can see is what I see from the cockpit. So at this point, the entire package is pushed in, and we decide to go ahead and follow this fourth flight, these F-15s on in ourselves. I was still a little bit gun shy from the last mission and the result there where we got jumped right down here in this area that we're approaching. I could have pushed in. As you see, there was no real air threat other than what popped up initially, and those were taken care of very, very quickly by those F-15s. So we come down here and hold. Now this is the point where we start to see, in fact, SA-19s, this is our target right here, coming down the road, start to take shots at some of the seed flights, F-18s going in there to take out those SA-19s. You can see those flights have already neutralized the SA-19s that were initially flanking that position. So we have still a well-defended target area, but not as bad as it was. So we come in here and I pick up on the SA-19s. They were the trailing vehicles in both formations. I tell 2 to take a shot at air defenses. I do the same. And on one pass we take out, well, one of the air defense units and then a couple of tanks. So I just come around one more pass to take out that SA-19. And it was really as simple as that. Of all the missions in the campaign, I think mission 4 right here ended up being just the most straightforward and the simplest when it comes to following the situation and just a lack of surprises. I had this entire area just to play around with at will. So we form back up and I decide to send 3 and 4 in. They go in and make some good CBU 105 passes, and it did take me a while. I didn't show all of the mission at this point, but I did make a couple of sort of dry passes trying to figure out how to get them to engage. And like I said, in real time, CBU 105, you have to, for the AI's purposes, have to consider them unguided bombs. Okay, so I go in behind them, I lead the vehicles a little bit. I didn't lead them enough. I was set up right before I popped up. My targeting pod was, in relation to where the vehicles were. I was looking, it looked like about maybe 100 yards ahead, and you can see that the CB-105, and I'll come in here for a little bit of a closer view, and you can see that the CB-105, even though I was leading them, were still a little bit behind the target at release, and I'll play it again. So if I had basically just doubled the amount that I led them there, it would have been just fine. So take whatever you saw me do right there, double it, and that's what I should have been looking for when it came to leading those moving vehicles on that release. It still got some good effects in there, still took out, 3 vehicles, but not as effective as it could have been, and I don't get any better on those CB-105s, unfortunately, when it comes to accurate targeting, as we'll see coming up right here. Yeah, this is the second attack, so I do basically an identical attack to the one that I just did, but I was very, very late in picking up that I didn't still have this column centered up in my targeting pod. So if I had thought to center them back up before I popped up, and that was just, I don't know what I was thinking there, I knew that the targeting pod was still the sensor point of interest. I just didn't pick up on it quickly enough, but it was still close enough. You don't have to be dead on. Took out another 3 targets with that CBU, and then I just sort of, out of frustration, mainly roll in with guns, and really nothing to note here. I mean, it was an undefended target. The one thing that I could have done on these 3 passes, I wish I had not been so predictable in the way that I came in. I made what were essentially identical CB-105 passes, 2 of them, then rolled in on that exact same axis to take them out with a gun. And yeah, I should have varied it a little bit, or if I thought that I was getting a little bit too predictable, I could have come over to the secondary target, taking out some of these guys, and then come back to this primary target. I had things pinned down so that I could have done things just however I wanted to for the entire mission. So 3 and 4 go in there, and I think 2 got off some bombs too, and the entire primary target is halted, and there's no need for me to expend more weapons on, what do we have left, just a couple of APCs. So I come back out and form back up with my flight, and I decide to press on just because I was enjoying what I was doing. I think I ideally would have pulled out at this point without any air cover, but I just wanted to do some more stuff since I had the time and I had the weapons and the fuel. Barely. So we come around, I give the entire flight the command to engage, and we all, 3 of us, I think 4 was RTB due to fuel anyway, but yeah, me, 2, and 3 roll in. 3 is the only one that picked up on a target, so he takes an AGM-65 shot. I have a couple of targets out here. I'm down to just CBU, so I just picked a point. My aim point was just sort of in the middle of these 3 tanks. I didn't really care exactly where it was, because if I got a bomb at the right point, I could have at least maybe got 2 of them, I guess. I guess they ended up being a little bit more spaced out than I thought they were. But I come up here, release 2 CB-105s, and they come down, yeah, like I said, in the middle, more or less, of that little package there. I did take out 2 of them. I just didn't get that one that was further away, but it was a good idea. I'm happy with the way that turned out. So we egress the area. Myself, 2, 3, and 4 are very, very low on fuel by now, and I would have hit the tanker. This, believe it or not, I've never, ever refueled an A-10. I just never had a reason to, or a particular desire to. Now, what you've been seeing here, and we'll see on probably the next 2 missions, are like the initial version or the initial release of the campaigns, so the tankers were operating on a frequency that I just couldn't reach. That was corrected for subsequent versions of the campaign, so what you're seeing here is not the final version by any means. A lot of stuff has been tweaked and fine-tuned, among those of the tanker frequencies, so I abort my attempt to a tanking. Probably didn't miss anything other than just a complete failure anyway, but eventually I'll get around to that and include a tanking on a mission at some point. But yeah, I just RTB and take it on in. So yeah, overall I was happy with the result, obviously, since we took out a lot of targets. So if anything, what I'll work on from here is just being a little bit more efficient when it comes to getting on and off these targets. And I've already flown all the missions in the campaign, and I do a lot better job of getting in and out subsequently. So I think that's my cue to move on into mission 5. It's a night mission, so the presentation is going to be of necessity a little bit different on that one, but I'll get all into that in the mission briefing. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.